Hey everybody, it's me, Sound Eric, and we're back with some new cards for Legends of Runeterra. Fate's Voyage Beyond. We have three new champions to look at: Mordekaiser, the Elder Dragon, and Morgana. And we have all of the cards released at once. That is because we're coming up on tournament, the worlds. They have to release them all at once so that the players that are going to be playing in the tournament are able to use the cards and practice with them and know what they're getting into. There you go. So the release schedule is a little bit different. We do have one video to look at, which is the Morgana Spotlight. We'll splice that in right when we get to Morgana, but other than that, let's just get started. First up, we have Mordekaiser. He is a 7 mana 5/8 from Noxus and Shadow Isles, either one. Play, kill up to 2 allies, and when you slay another ally, revive it. He levels up once 15 plus allies has died. He doesn't need to see it. It's the number of allies, but allies with 5 plus power count twice. So 5 plus power matters in Noxus. You're going to be able to ramp that up with Noxus pretty well. High power allies dying is a thing with Viego. Things dying just in general is a thing in Shadow Isles. So he's really going to be able to work a little bit differently each one. The 5 plus power counting twice, I think, is more about ramping him and making him work at all in Noxus. Whereas in Shadow Isles, it's less important, but whenever you can get a 5 plus power thing to die, uh, it's fine. The main thing is whenever you slay your own allies with Mordekaiser, they revive automatically. So Glimpse Beyond, Atrocity, any number of kill effects that you can find in Shadow Isles, you're going to be able to get a free revive. That means you're going to get last breaths, you're going to get summon effects. Mordekaiser comes in pretty late, but he is a value engine in a very cool way. All right. And we can see here in the art, Mordekaiser is in his Death Realm. He's looking a lot less green than you might remember from League of Legends. And don't worry, that is because in the Death Realm, or rather just kind of spirit stuff, has been shown to be blue. So even his short story art, Mordekaiser has kind of a bluish energy to him when he's in the Death Realm. That's why. Not a big deal for those of you who think it's unfortunate. But overall, yeah, looking a bit different, looking a bit bluer. This doesn't necessarily mean that they changed what his armor looks like, but this is basically his pajamas. This is him chilling in his own home dimension, having made a thing for himself. His armor could still look the same if you want to imagine that. This is just his pajamas. Yeah. Next up, we have, let's just go straight to the level 2. The benefit you get. Uh, kill up to 2 allies. Whenever you slay another ally, revive it. All that's the same. That's still really powerful. Good enough. When you attack with Mordekaiser, it gives for the rest of the game, when you slay a unit, drain 1 from the enemy nexus. And every time Mordekaiser attacks, you're going to get that trigger, that stacking effect for the rest of the game. So drain 2, drain 3, drain 4. The more Mordekaiser is allowed to attack, the worse it's going to be for the opponent. And he doesn't have Overwhelm, he's not doing anything like that. He is not directly killing the Nexus, he is instead making a world where he has control, and every time anything's dying, you're massively benefiting from it, and the opponent is just gonna slowly or very rampingly, very quickly drain away. He has no real protection though, so he can just kind of die. 7 mana drop, and then you can just vengeance him or something. But he is going to come in with a play effect, kill 2 allies, revive those 2 things. he's going to be putting in some amount of work no matter what. Yeah, and you can see here, pretty much all his flavor text is just describing who he is, where he is. He's in the Immortal Bastion. You might wonder why Shadow Isles also. I think it's more of a mechanical effect. Shadow Isles is the place of death. It's not like a lore reason. Uh, it's mechanical effect as well as just death energy, access to those kinds of cards. I'd say that's the main reason why. So don't worry about that. What regions mean in this card game is not necessarily the same as what they mean from lore. Okay. Realm of Death, a 10 mana card for his signature spell. An ally starts a free attack challenging the strongest enemy. So you choose an ally, it's always the strongest enemy, but then you kill all other units. If you have Mordekaiser in play when you play this, and this is a signature spell, all of your stuff gets revived because of his effect. So this is a one-sided board wipe where Mordekaiser is probably the one attacking. It's a bunch of slay triggers. This is a very strong 10 mana board wipe that, as long as you have a stronger ally than the opponent, or at the very least a unit that can kill the strongest enemy, you are pretty fine playing this. Death is my dominion. Thank you, Mordekaiser. All right, next up we start looking at some of Mordekaiser's cards. The Legion of the Severed. Play, grant Deathless to an ally in hand. And now you may be thinking, what is Deathless? Well, Deathless is when a unit dies, revive it with 1 health, but stunned. So if it dies during combat, hey, it comes back and it's stunned. That doesn't really matter. If it dies outside of combat, hey, it's stunned. It's not going to be able to block or attack. There is a benefit to killing it in that way. And as you can see, we can see Deathless in Noxus and Shadow Isles. This is very much going to be Mordekaiser's unique keyword. Let's get back over to the cards. So this is a 3 mana 4/2 that gives Deathless to an ally in hand. That is pretty strong. We can see the just kind of endless fractal of the souls Mordekaiser is gathering in the Gray Realm. Yeah, and they're just kind of like minions for his war machine more than anything else. They don't have any kind of real individuality. Then we have the Shackled Geist. Shackled Gas, actually. 1 mana, 1/1 with a last breath. Sure, you love to see it. Very Shadow Isles. The next time you revive an ally, create a copy of me in hand. Now that is interesting. So that is a 1 mana synergy for revive strategies. You put this in play early on, and then when it dies, you're able to summon it again next time anything gets revived. So it's just a replenishing resource as long as you keep putting it out. It's pretty much just going to be keeping a chump blocker in a revive deck. It's not really going to be doing much of anything else. But it's still something. Mordekaiser needs something that you can just keep killing over and over again. And if you have enough revives in your deck, this is going to find a place. And this is, yeah, we'll all suffer forever and ever until we're granted oblivion at Master's Hand. So these seem to be souls that are currently being punished by Mordekaiser, perhaps. Long ago that were chained, will all suffer until granted oblivion. So yeah, there's some sense in those souls where it's not pleasant being part of Mordekaiser's thing. They don't have oblivion. They haven't found oblivion just yet here. Terrible. You hate to see it. Death's Grasp. Kill an ally for 5 damage. Now that is a strong removal for Shadow Isles. You do have to kill an ally. Obviously, with Mordekaiser out, killing an ally doesn't mean anything. But or rather it's beneficial and loses its downside. But just in general, 3 mana kill an ally for 5 damage is probably gonna just straight up replace the Gwen card, which I think is 2 mana for kill an ally, deal its power to another unit. This lets you kill some meaningless chump blocker and do a straight up 5 damage. Yeah, Mordekaiser being Mordekaiser in the quote. Threshold of the Grey. So a landmark. Play Curse an enemy with terror. When you summon a Titanic ally, destroy me to draw 2. Okay. These souls we offer you, this road we pave and blown before you, these realms we rend asunder to make way for your army of iron everlasting. So Mordekaiser has cultists that for some reason think that trying to worship and get on Mordekaiser's good side is in any way of a good thing. It is not, but there they are, sending energy to the gray to feed Mordekaiser's power. And we can see Neela having found out about it and coming to put a stop to this kind of thing, either to fight Mordekaiser or at the very least to just fight the cultists of Mordekaiser. One way or the other, just being a hero. But curse an enemy with terror. What does that mean? Look at that little symbol right there. Curse an enemy with terror. Let's take a look at curse. Curses are debuffs in the form of cards placed in the opponent's hand. Players can spend mana to lift the curses. So when this says curse them with terror, it is going to put a card named terror in their hand, and that curse is attached to a specific enemy. And let's see, what does terror do? Well, while I'm in the hand, the cursed unit has -3, -0. Feel an overwhelming sense of dread. Yep. So this is, you can see it over here with terror. There's probably going to be more things to do terror. Also, speaking of Titanic ally in Shadow Isles, Mordekaiser is Titanic. Look at that. That's nice. Realm of Death. An ally starts a free attack challenging. Oh, we already know about that. That's just the signature spell over again, but not with Mordekaisers. Death Grasp Cultist. When I am summoned, or you summon a Titanic ally, like Mordekaiser, you curse the strongest enemy with terror. So a 4 mana, 3/4 with Fearsome comes in, gives something -3 unless the opponent pays 2 mana. At some point at focus speed. So they can't do it at burst speed. They can't do it like after you attacked or anything, or as like an actual combat trick. But it doesn't take their actual initiative or turn to remove a curse. Yeah, so you get 1 curse. You get another curse when you play Mordekaiser. If it's in a Titanic deck, you're just kind of cursing the opponent while you're trying to stall them out. As far as benefits, as far as a card coming in, the curse is pretty nice. As far as a benefit for Titanic allies, you already have a Titanic ally. I think that the curse is kind of minor in my opinion. So interesting. I think it's pretty good on its own, but that extra Titanic bit, not that crazy. In the eyes of his followers, the Iron Revenant is the only hope for those who seek oblivion. Peace through domination, these cultists welcome it with open arms. So they are nihilists, basically. Okay. Well, you hate to see it. So then there's terror. Next up, we have an amalgamation of vile rites. To play me, kill an ally, and it is deathless, a 5 mana 5/3. So if it dies, it'll come back as a 5/1. It has last breath to heal your Nexus 2, which does mean 5 mana 5/3. It dies, your Nexus heals 2. It dies a second time, your Nexus heals another 2. This seems like a pretty good card to play. It just comes in. It's also 5 attack, which is great for Mordekaiser. It'll count as 2 deaths, and it's going to die twice, so that's going to be 4 deaths towards leveling up Mordekaiser. I think this is definitely going to see play in a Mordekaiser deck where you're trying to survive to that Mordekaiser late game. Yeah, because you definitely need to get to Mordekaiser. And Mordekaiser doesn't just win the game when he comes out either. So for the most part, you really need value like this. A very strong last breath effect that you can kill over and over again. Once Mordekaiser's in play, this thing's just going to keep coming back. Very good with Mordekaiser. Huge synergy. Beasts of War have value to any army. In the Grey Realm, they are the tortured amalgamations of souls, each one violently consumptive in its insentience. Those are a lot of big words, but what that basically means is that Mordekaiser has created this beast of war, using a bunch of souls just kind of jammed together, and it is violent and it eats other souls to sustain and grow itself, but it is not sentient. It is too many things. It is just mindlessly hungry to feed itself. Which is why you see it running around eating other Mordekaiser minions. That's not really helping Mordekaiser here. It's just how things are in the gray, I guess, nowadays. Terrible place, once again. Alright, now we start seeing a couple of variety cards. It's 2 cards per region that isn't the main focus. The main focus of this pack being, of course, Shadow Isles and Noxus, as well as Demacia and Targon for Morgana and Mordekaiser. So, first up, an honest croupier. A croupier is just someone that works at a gambling establishment, at a casino. When you play a card with cost equal to my power, grant me +1/+1. And it is brash. Don't you want to put some more down? No risk, no reward, you know. This is a lucky table tonight, I'll tell you. And the house deals fair at this fine establishment. Swear it in my mama's tongue. So, this guy. So the thing that says he's honest, I have a feeling he's not honest. He really looks like he's not honest. I don't believe him, but maybe he is. Maybe he's just a guy that doesn't cheat. But basically, it's a 3-drop. You play a 1-mana card, not even just not just units, but any card that costs 1 mana. He's now a 2/4. Then you play a 2-mana card, and now he's a 3/5, and so forth and so forth. Now this is an interesting card. I don't know how much you want to build around it, but you basically put this in a deck that has a variety of mana costs, I guess, and then you're constantly trying to make this bigger and bigger and bigger by just playing things not even on curve. You're playing like at an anti-curve. Yeah, this is a weird guy. He is a weird dude. So the question is, how good does he need to be to kind of really hit the ground running? Right off the bat, if you're putting him in a brash deck, you're putting him with Jack, right? He's going to get +1/+1 when you play a coin. That's already pretty solid. Then you just need to play a 2-drop, which that deck does run, and then suddenly he is gotten to a 3/5, and a 3/5 for 3 is pretty good. He's just kind of growing on the side there. He can get out of hand, but he does reach a point where he's going to stop growing because you're going to stop having that big of cost of cards. But at that point, he's like a big monster that needs to be dealt with. So honestly, he's going to be kind of hard to fit. But I think he's not going to be that bad. I think he'll be interesting. Don't build an entire deck around him, but that'll be a fun challenge to do. Then we have the Mirai Reef Spire, and look at that. Beautiful. So the Mirai are, of course, Nami's people, the mermaid type people, the merfolk. The reef has long been both shelter and ally. It cares for us as we care for it, so neither will fall to the darkness of the murk. The murk is not fully explained necessarily, but we believe that the Merc is most likely the void as it exists at the bottom of the ocean. Or at the very least, what the Mirai call the void at the bottom of the ocean. In any case, when you spend mana to play a unit, refill one spell mana. So every unit has a tune. So what that means is that if you combine this with the Hammerhead Shark guy, here we go, this guy right here. When you refill mana, create a fleeting random follower in hand that you can exactly afford. Which means you play this landmark, on turn 4 you play this guy, which will get you a 0-cost ally, random follower, and then for the rest of the game, as long as you're able to keep that landmark and this unit around, every time you play a unit, you're going to be able to get another unit to go with it, which is definitely interesting. That is creating a lot of fleeting stuff to discard, so this might go good with a discard strategy, so that you can make use of those cards if you don't want to play them. But yeah. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. If you're doing some kind of... It's a little bit of loss of tempo to play it on too, but for a control deck, I could see it finding a lot of use. If you're trying to do a prank deck, I think you could find a lot of use for it as well. Because you always just want a little bit of extra mana to do those little bit of spells. So I think this is going to work really well with Fizz. Obviously, Nami's going to like it as well. Then we go to PNZ, and we have a new equipment. Shady Spectacles. You may remember this from the Shady character way back when the game was released. Pick an allied follower, transform my bearer into an exact copy of it while I'm equipped. So 3 mana to transform an allied follower into transform a champion or follower into that other follower. Very interesting. You can only use it on allied ones, unlike the Shady character, so you can't use it to match your opponent, but you can use it to double your benefits. This is most likely going to find use with weird transform strategies that you might be trying to do with Nidalee, maybe, or with the Gnar and the ancient Yordles, like Chief Nakotak. I could see both of those being used here. But I could also see this being used potentially with Pantheon and those other kinds of faded units. If you have a build up a single powerful follower type strategy with faded, then the Shady Spectacles could come in and really match them. So this could be a strong force multiplier if you have a deck that's was all your eggs in one basket. Very interesting. I like it. Don't ask how these work. They just do. Yordle magic, but in PNZ. Next up, the Charlatan Fishmonger. All right. This guy, round start, all players draw 1, then grant your opponent's card fleeting in P and Z. So this, despite its look, not a Bilgewater card. 2 for 1 today, and today only. Fresh Fish caught this month. 2 for 1. What do you mean you don't want the second one? It's free. So he is mixing in bad fish with good fish, and that is shown by all players draw 1 at round start, but your opponent's card is fleeting. So, where does this go? Well, the most obvious thing is that this goes in puff caps. This goes with Caitlyn, the flash bombs and puff caps, as a replacement for the Hextech Foundry. Because the Hextech Foundry, well, this is a 4-mana 4/4, so already it can block and help you out in a situation. It can be killed, though, but with the Explorers being around and how easy it is to destroy landmarks, I think that the Foundry is also pretty easy to destroy nowadays. So this guy might just be a strict upgrade for a trap deck. Would you want him in any other kind of deck, I wonder? Um, if you want to draw cards and you don't mind your opponent drawing cards, this guy could come in and help you out. I'm not sure if he is good enough for that, but it is, once again, just better than the Hextech Foundry if you're trying to push actual damage or be defensive. This guy has actual, actual good stats. And perhaps the opponent won't even want to kill him in some circumstances because both players are drawing cards. If the opponent's drawing cards they can afford and not having to discard them, or fishing for something that they're looking for, they might just look at the fishmonger, and be like, I love that guy. Keep him around. So he might actually not be that. I think he's actually not that bad. I think you might start seeing this guy quite a lot. I hope he has voice lines. Look at this. Look at this mug. All right. Next up, we go to some Freljord cards. Yodolski Snowdog. 2 mana, 2/3. That is a nice, solid defensive Freljordian stat line. You love to see it. And it's a dog, so you can see this in Nico decks coming soon. Attack, grant the top 2 allies in your deck +1/+1. This is immediately going in Nico. This is. It might go in some Freljord. It's kind of like the Omen Hawk, but it needs to actually attack to do it. But it has pretty decent stats. It probably can survive to attack twice or block and then attack once. It has good enough stats for that. So, yep, definitely a Nico card if nothing else. A handy harness. +1/+0 for each different subtype you've summoned this game. Okay. So 2 mana, it's not giving any health, but it's going to give a lot of attack. There are beasts up here that even an avalanche won't stop. That's why a good harness is worth every coin. Yeah, I would say that this is probably going to go on. I mean, the most obvious thing, since it's only attack, is that this can go on overwhelm units, and this can go on elusive units. Those are the 2 most obvious things. In Freljord, you're going to find Overwhelm, but you can pair this with elusives. Obviously, this could work with Nico. Nico specifically cares about subtypes. But you could see this with possibly some other strategies. Um, Anything else that wants a variety of subtypes, though? Yeah, it's not going to get that high unless you're doing like Nico, I think. All right. And then we have the Elder Dragon. 12 mana, 10/10. Origin is Aspect of the Dragon, which I think we should take a look at. That is, you may put any followers that cost 6+ into your deck during deck building. When you play a unit with 6+ base cost, pick one of 2 dragon boons to play on it. Okay, so it's not about dragons, actually. You can put dragons in that deck, but it's actually just about high cost, most likely Titanic units. And whenever you play any of those big things, you are getting the benefit of dragon boons. So, the Elder Dragon, going back to that, I cost 1 less for each different dragon boon you've played this game. So every time you play a 6+ cost, base cost unit, it is going to get a boon, and that's going to make your Elder Dragon cost less. And when you play the Elder Dragon, it will cost, it will get every dragon boon on itself. So that's going to be a lot. It has Fury, it's a 10/10. Your allies have attacked with 75 plus total power. And let's see what the Infernal Might they are. +1/+1 and Fearsome, +1/+1 and Impact twice. Deathless, Challenger, +1/+1 and Tough. Heal your allies and your Nexus 2. So playing the Elder Dragon, it's actually going to be 10, 11, 12, 13, a 13/13 with tough, fearsome, challenger, deathless, impact twice, and your board and nexus will heal too. But what happens when you level up? Your allies have attacked with 75 plus total power. It becomes a 30/30 with I cannot be stopped. What does I cannot be stopped mean? It means it cannot be frostbitten, it can't be blocked, it can't be stunned, it can't be recalled, it can't be killed or obliterated, you can't lower its stats, it cannot be transformed. Basically, if you can think of anything that would stop this thing from hitting your nexus, that won't happen. There's only two things you can do. It either needs to be discarded from their hand before they even play it, or you need to. Silencing it also won't work. Yeah, the only other thing is to win before it gets a chance to level up and before the opponent gets the attack token after it levels up. So the thing is, your allies have attacked with 75 plus total power. That means that if it could level up when you play it, if you've been attacking with a lot of power somehow and also haven't won the game yet. But most likely, you're going to swing with the Elder Dragon, and it is going to level up on the attack, and then that attack is not going to be stopped. So very, very powerful. All right. Next up, we take a look at Primordial Roar, which is the signature spell. Refill 8 mana burst, refill your mana to full, draw all 6+ cost followers from the top 6 cards of your deck, and create an Elder Dragon in your deck. So, the biggest point of this is you have the dragon in play, is the only time you're going to be able to play this. And then you're able to draw some more followers so that you can try and just hit that level up. Honestly, as far as things go, it'll draw you some more cards, but I don't think it's that big a deal. It's not the greatest. Uh, it's really not the greatest signature spell, I don't think. All right, Iron Legionary, 3 mana, 5/1. Play, deal 3 to an ally to deal 3 to an enemy. So that is the Noxian Fervor, but on a unit, on a 5 mana or 3 mana 5/1. So it's the same cost. You can't do it in response to anything, and I don't believe killing it is going to stop the skill. So I think that is pretty worth it. Being a 5/1 means that it's going to work well with Mordekaiser because it'll count as 2 deaths for the level up, and it's also soul cleavering. So yeah, I think that is a pretty solid unit. I think you're going to see it. It'll be pretty scary because it can come down, hurt an ally to hurt an enemy. It can't hit face though. That's the biggest difference between it and Noxian Fervor, now that I look at it. But it can definitely try to clear its own way in order to land a 5 damage hit. But actually, yeah, the fact that it can't hit face makes this a bit weaker. You probably won't see too much of it, but it definitely has some tempo going on. 3 mana in Noxus to grant any ally deathless. Now you're going to see this a lot. That is a really good way to keep a ally alive when it should die. That is pretty strong. Yeah, not much to say about it. Just 3 mana prevents something from dying, but it'll only be around with 1 health, which makes it pretty fragile afterwards. So if you're going up against a deck with like removal and pings, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. Red Barbed Razor Mace, 4 mana 4/4 Overwhelm. Nexus Strike, it'll curse your opponent with Ichor, which is while in their hand, every round start, 1 damage the enemy Nexus. That is fun. It's a reptile, so you'll actually be able to put it in a Nico deck, which is interesting. but that is just going to be hurting the opponent's tempo. It swings in as long as it's able to land that hit, which at 4 mana 4/4, it's not too hard to block that and not take the damage, but it's like a 50-50, I think, whether or not most matches you're going to be able to land a hit with that and get at least one Nexus strike in. But it probably won't survive too long. But even just getting one of those on the opponent, it's either going to be bleeding them out slowly, or they have to spend 3 mana to stop it, which is huge. That's a lot of mana to have to spend. Lord Mallet, a 4 mana 5/2 with Deathless. He is immediately really good for reputation. He's able to survive twice. He's really good for Mordekaiser as well, but that is probably at least 2 5 damage hits at 4 mana. Yeah, that's just kind of really solid for reputation, as well as Mordekaiser really liking it because of Deathless. Blade Pierce Revenant, 3 mana 2/3 in Noxus. When an ally is revived, grant it Challenger. Now the thing is, in Noxus, the only way you're getting stuff revived is with Deathless. So that's with Indestructible or things that have Deathless, which is Lord Mallet, or if you have a Mordekaiser in play where just everything's getting revived when you kill it with your own effects. But if you are doing Shadow Isles Noxus, oh, that's going to be doing some great work. So that's going to be pretty good, but mostly when you're just mixing the two, I think. All right. And we can actually see that that is one of Neela's followers. They did actually get into the Death Realm. Interesting. And of course, you can see here. It took centuries of planning to seal away that dreadful warmonger, and your pathetic friends intend to defeat him with joy. Foolish girl, you'll do nothing but incur the Revenant's wrath, and in doing, risk us all. So, yep, Neela is gone to Noxus and is captured Lord Mallet in order to try to get to Mordekaiser. A bit cocky. I don't think that's going to work out for her. Then we get Ancient Malediction, curse an enemy with terror. That's just a thing you can put in your deck. Okay. So you spend 2 mana to make an opponent have to spend 2 mana to get rid of -3/-3. That is a interesting trade, and also you get to do it at burst. So at burst, you give them -3. If they don't die in whatever trade you're doing that in, then they have to spend mana to get rid of it. You're most likely going to be using that to try to stop elusive damage, probably. Like this, just stop some damage that you weren't blocking. Otherwise, you use it to make a trade, in which case it's 2 mana to make a trade in a favorable way, which is still pretty good for Shurima. Tomb Raider Barbara. That is 3 mana for a 3/2. Each round, the first time another ally dies or last breath, create a lucky find in hand. So this is just going to be making you a bunch of lucky finds. 3 mana 3/2. If it dies, it gets you 1. Yeah, as long as you have a board, like if you're running this with Sand Soldiers, maybe. Obviously, it's going to work really well with Akshan, since it's making stuff that targets, and you love to see that. But you could see this with almost anything. Like, nothing is not going to like that. Also, it's a reptile. Nico can run this. That is interesting on Nico, but not necessarily the most powerful or anything. And now we get to Morgana. Okay, before we look at Morgana's cards, let's go ahead and watch the spotlight.
You will know regret. The divine should liberate, not subjugate.
Comes in, starts putting in curses. The opponent has to remove those curses.
I will fight with you, but I will never
put more curses out.
My absence has made you strong, Morgana.
And makes them unable to attack.
No suffering!
And then 5 mana 4/5 with lifesteal. Curses enemies with shackles twice. And every time you attack, here's your payoff. Curse the strongest enemy that isn't cursed already with shackles. and deal 3 to cursed enemies and 2 to the enemy nexus. And that does not appear to be a skill, that just happens immediately. So you can see here,
Share in my
declare the
curse.
attack. Oh no, it is a
Do
skill.
not look away. Our suffering was not in vain.
Alright, we can see all the cards here. And we can see Path of Champions stuff as well. When you target an enemy, it gets cursed. Curses are harder to get rid of. And every round end, deal 2 to cursed enemies and 1 to the enemy nexus for each curse in their hand. Very fun. That should be fun to do. Okay. Anything? Nope. So, with all that in mind, we can take a look at Morgana here. 5 mana, 3/4, not great stats. It is dual region, which is very interesting. You level up when you target units 8+ times. So not just targeting allies or enemies, you can just target anything. And when you play, it curses an enemy with shackles twice. And of course, we can see here that Neela arrives bruised and bleeding. Yet I've never seen a countenance so jubilant. You're a strange woman indeed, but you are safe here. Please rest, and when you're feeling better, I'm keen to hear your story. So this is most likely Demacia. This is the hidden forest from Demacia. So we can assume that Neela, of course, survived her attack on Volibear, but came out of it bruised and bleeding, coming down from Freljord to Demacia, as that is one of the easiest ways down from there. Came into the hidden forest that Morgana's in. Morgana helped heal her. You can also see the veil that she wears is the veiled lady right there as well. Very cool. Alright. And the leveled up version we saw already. It allows you to, in addition to just cursing, which you can see that Morgana, just a play effect, and then kind of wants to sit back until you level up. The level up isn't that hard to do, but once you do level up, now you want to start attacking with Morgana, and you put this skill on the stack. When you attack, you're gonna get some extra free damage in. Nothing too huge, but definitely nice. The biggest part is the curses, the shackles that you're putting out. You'll regret this transgression. Be assured that if nothing else, you'll feel the suffering you've inflicted on others as a vice around your very soul. You'll admit to your sins or be suffocated by them. And we can see that she is in Demacia fighting Mage Seekers. So although Targon and Demacia, she is definitely in Demacia here. Physically anyway. Uh, Dark Binding, stun an enemy and curse it with shackles. So very good. 3 mana, it gives them the sufferers you made them suffer. So that is a Targon stun for 3 mana, and it's afflicting them with a curse. That's going to be very strong. You're going to see that a lot in Targon, I think. And then finally we see the shackles. It is 2 mana to get rid of it. But while in hand, the cursed unit is immobile. No blocking, no attacking. So, very nice. So it's not just can't attack, it's fully immobile. Can't block either, which makes those curses very good. Of course, you can declare a blocker. That curse happens... Yeah, I believe that curse... Yeah, because Soul Shackles is the skill. Deal 3 to cursed enemies and 2 to the cursed nexus. Okay, so I think the strongest enemy that isn't cursed, is actually as soon as you declare the attack. But then the damage part is the skill, because the Soul Shackles doesn't say to apply a curse as part of that effect. So when Morgana attacks, immediately their strongest enemy can't block, which is super great. Okay, Mahira Aspect Ascendant is 8 mana for a 6/8 Overwhelm. That is Titanic. Really good for Targon. And on play, curses 2 enemies with shackles twice. So, just does what Morgana does. It was in the names of my daughters that I embraced divinity. It was for my family that I forsook my own humanity, so that by this flaming sword I could forge anew a world of truth and justice. So, this is interesting to see because we've seen Mahira. This is aspect ascendant. So, is this a glimpse into the past, I wonder? Or is this some new thing that has happened after the fight with Zolani? Because she was kind of absorbed during that fight, but presumably was defeated and rescued afterwards, we could imagine. Perhaps lost a lot of her power, just like Pantheon did after the Ruination. A lot of possibilities here if we assume this isn't just the past. But Sinner's Vice. For Targon, 6 mana, curse an enemy with shackles, increase the cost of enemy curses everywhere by 1. Uh, so this is 6 mana, you only get 1 curse, but it will permanently make curses better. So in a curse deck, you're probably going to want to run this, because that is going to, if you can get that out early, make things really tough for the opponent if you keep getting these out. The Ruby-Eyed Conjurer, very cool looking. You can see he has a third eye, or possibly has only 2 eyes, and one of them is just in the wrong spot. 2 mana 2/2. Grant Spell Shield or Overwhelm to an ally in hand. Okay, so compared to Pantheon's friend Ayula, who gives that same option on play, but to something in play, Ruby-Eyed Conjurer comes in a turn earlier and is just putting that out on something that's going to come in later, which a lot of times is probably going to be better because you get to pre-set up something, you don't need to have it already in play. So I think you're definitely going to see this come in and just put spell shield on some stuff and things will come out already protected. And we can see the 2 different options. Flavor text is the Conjurer protecting and allowing this person to run off ahead, protecting them from Mage Seekers, helping people get to Morgana. Lisa and Dolly. 3 mana, puts a shackle on someone. Yeah, 3 mana for a unit and a shackle. That seems to just flow pretty well, and that's happening on the Targon side of Morgana. So Targon, a decent amount of shackles, which is just going to be throwing the opponent off if they want to be able to block with their units. So very good. Just curves very nicely as you're heading into wanting to play Morgana on 5. You have a 2-drop, you have a 3-drop, both of those just coming in ahead of time. Very nice. Okay. Then we have the Gentle Gem Dragon. This is a 6/5 dragon, 6 cost, so the Elder Dragon can run this. Whenever you play a fast or slow spell or a skill, grant other dragon allies +1/+1. So obviously this is just going to go into a dragon deck. It could go into a Elder Dragon deck because it's 6 cost, but you don't really need to. For the most part, this is going to be very good with Shyvana, who is obviously playing fast spells when she attacks, especially once she's leveled up. So this will find a place in Dragon decks. It has Fury, it has everything you want. 6 mana for a 6/5 is decent, and it's able to. It doesn't buff itself though, only other Dragon allies. So you need to have a board for this to be actually doing anything. Dark Binding, still really good. Otrani, Dragon Worshipper. When I'm summoned, heal your Nexus 2 and gain an extra mana gem next round. So you play this on 4, and then next round, instead of having 5 mana, you'll have 6. So this guy is going to come down, especially in an Elder Dragon deck, and just help you ramp to that very important 6 mana turn. And you're going to be able to do that on turn 5 and turn 6, play 6 drops back to back. Very good for if you run Targon with the Elder Dragon. This guy is going to fit very well in there, and is probably a big reason to play Targon with the Elder Dragon. Okay, and you even get a heal as well. Very nice. So this is just a Otrani who has dedicated their life to dragons. Yeah, so not the Herald or the Cultist type person we saw before, but still very good. Very good. Black Shield. This is Spell Shield, and of course they put it in the Targon side. Give an ally Spell Shield, but curse it with Shackles. So it's only 2 mana for a Spell Shield, and it's only this round. So it's not permanent Spell Shield. And it is permanent Shackles. But you can do this to basically stop anything that would affect one of your units for very cheap, and then you have to spend 2 mana to remove the shackles. But as long as you are blocking with it, you get to basically use this on your terms very well. And if it's something that's a backline unit that you're not planning on attacking for a while anyway, maybe you don't really care about the shackles. You could potentially just not care about the shackles the whole time. So very strong, good amount of protection for very cheap. Very nice to see that. Then we get to the Demacian side of things, and we get Suppression. Suppression is while I'm in hand, you can't play spells other than Suppression. It is 2 cost, of course, and they have to play it. They can't play it at burst speed. So if you can get this in their hand and do some kind of attack, they can't even play Suppression because it's not burst. So you can definitely do some amount of lockdown strategies or open attack strategies where they just can't play spells. This is going to be very strong for Demacia. Um, let's see how you get them. Magical Fettering, 2 mana, give an ally some more health, and then curse your opponent with Suppression. That is super worth it. Not only putting out Suppression is good enough, but granting more health, uh, it's at slow. It's kind of like it's not the best stats to be giving at all times. But I don't know, putting this on a Garen perhaps, something with regeneration. There's lots of stuff that wants to attack in Demacia, and you want to keep around as long as possible. And then that suppression is just going to do a lot of work. Or you can pay 4 mana. When I'm summoned, curse your opponent with suppression, and this is a 3/2 with tough and with challenger. That is very good. The tough on it is going a long way towards helping it take out some small things. Also, it doesn't need, unlike a lot of the other Mage Seekers, you don't really care about it staying alive quite as well. Once it's been summoned, it's done its job. If you can summon it, do some weird shenanigans where you multi-summon it, you can load them down with suppression, which is going to be very annoying for the opponent. Flavor text, looks like they did capture the extra eye, the ruby-eyed protector. Cannot allow them to reach the sanctuary of the fallen sister. Her magic is ancient and twisted, far beyond even my ability to suppress. Quickly take these abominations back to the ship, and then up the mountain after the rest of them. Up the mountain after the rest of them. Okay. Is this implying that they are around Targon? Because it does say the ship and also the mountain. It's possible, I suppose. It is possible that these are mage seekers that chased mages all the way to Targon? It seems unlikely though. I guess it's possible after the events of the Mage Seeker, the Riot Forge game, that Mage Seekers are been pushed far enough outside of Demacia proper that they're doing weird stuff all over the world. But more likely that this is not the mountain, the Targon mountain, but instead just a mountainous forest in Demacia. There's more than one mountain in all of Runeterra. Anyway, let's move on where we see a new Demacian dragon, the Cloud Drake. 6 mana 6/6. When I'm summoned, reduce the cost of all allied units in hand by 1. That is pretty nice. You're definitely going to want to see that in a Elder Dragon deck because it is going to help you play an Elder Dragon if you have one in hand. Just make sure you have enough card draw. It's very much like Mobilize. It's also going to find a place in just Demacian decks, I think. It comes in with a 6 mana 6/6, which is a fine stat line to have, and it's just going to help the rest of your hand. Just make sure that you have enough card draw that by the time you hit turn 6, you have units to reduce the cost of that you actually care about, which I think you will. There's enough high value Titanic units in Demacia nowadays that you can build a deck where the Cloud Drake is really hitting some value, even if you're not a Elder Dragon deck. Uh, Alatus the Gallant, a 7 mana 7/6 dragon. Your dragon boons target all dragon allies. Interesting. Dragon boons target all dragon allies, but you only see dragon boons in an Elder Dragon deck. So outside of an Elder Dragon deck, this is just a 7 mana 7/6 dragon, which is not that crazy, honestly. So I think this is a card only for an Elder Dragon deck, which is interesting. To be clear, I was not always a dragon allegiant. Alatus here convinced me the first time he saved my life. He taught me a lot, but the most important thing, there's no finer life than serving Demacia from the back of a dragon. So yeah, Alatus the Gallant is a heroic dragon that people seem to love in Demacia. Dragon-mounted guys. And here we have the Dragon Allegiant. When I'm summoned, draw a dragon if you behold a dragon. So, yep, it is a dragon rider. You know, it pains me to admit it, old boy, but we can't tame him alone. We can already. I'll send word to the general. With the might of Demacia behind us, we're sure to bring that fantastic beast to its knees. So, yeah, it is a guy that wants to tame the Elder Dragon for Demacia and wants to prove that dragon riders are a thing that Demacia should do. Interesting. 2 mana, 2/3. As long as you have a dragon in your hand, it's going to draw another dragon. Seems great for dragon decks. Turn 2, especially in Demacian dragon decks, I think you are very likely to get the card draw, and you just like the effect. So, very nice for non-Targon dragon decks. Then we go to the Ocean Drake, which is a new dragon for Ionia. 6 mana 3/5 elusive. When you play a fast spell, slow spell, or skill, heal your Nexus 1. Okay, so you're just healing as you do things. Ocean Drake is not actually causing any skills or anything, but as long as it's in play, and it's 6 mana for a 3/5 elusive, which is not great, but if you're trying to do a long play thing, I could see it having a use. Looks like Neela ran into it, thinks it's cool. Should you ever decide to prey on more than fish and seabirds, I'd be delighted to face you. Yeah, I would love to fight this thing if it was evil, but it's not currently evil. Haisho, Shell of the World. Ooh boy, look at that big turtle island. For the inhabitants of this Ionian village, Haisho is both honored caretaker and friend. Having carried their homes on his back from time immemorial, they can trust their village bearer to seek peaceful shores in times of trouble. 9 mana, 9/9 with Spell Shield. Very nice. Each round, the first card you play costs 9 less. Okay. I think this will definitely go into a Elder Dragon deck. This is just going to help you play all of the big units that you want to play. It'll even help you play an Elder Dragon. Um, and it's 9/9 spell shield, so it's hard to get rid of it. It's gonna help you. It's gonna get you at least one turn of that effect. It has the stats to just kind of be worth its mana cost. I don't think it's going to get its effect the turn you play it, but sometimes the wording can be kind of weird. If this lets you play another card after playing this, then it is amazing. But if it works the way I think, where you have to wait a turn, you play this, and then next turn you get to play basically two big things, then that is still really good, but not quite uh, as crazy strong as if it works the turn you play it. Then we have another Ionian card, Empyrean Dance, 9 mana. A 9 mana deny that summons an Empyrean, which, if you need a reminder, is a 7 mana 6/5 elusive. Very big elusive, and you get it for as long as you play this deny. Very big. Very big. I mean, if you're stopping one big spell, this is a big tempo swing. If you're just blocking like some little thing, yeah, you're getting a 6/5 elusive. Is that worth it? It's hard to say. At most, you might play one of this, or at most, you're going to see it when Karma creates what for. Oh, wait. Stop a. Or skill. Recall an enemy and some. Oh, it also recalls an enemy. Okay, that's doing a lot then. That makes it very. That makes it definitely worth the mana. It's not just stopping a spell, it's also recalling an enemy and summoning the Empyrean. Okay. I wonder, can you play this as just a recall, or does there need to be a spell on the stack? That is definitely a big question. If there has to be a spell in the stack, this is going to be a bit harder to use. There'll be matchups where you're just not able to use it. But if it is. If you can just play it as a recall and summon Empyrean, that's honestly not bad. Okay. Early bird, we go to Bandle City. Your opponent discards their highest cost card for 2 mana. So we've seen something similar in Noxus, discarding the weakest follower, I believe. Uh, this is highest cost card. You can play this right when you get around the turns that they would be able to afford their highest cost card and just get rid of some big game ending, game winning kind of spells. Uh, very strong. The question is this better? Well, I mean, this is going to be in standard, I suppose, whereas the Aloof Travelers, which I believe are in the flavor text, yeah, L from the Aloof Traveler. Uh, Aloof Travelers is probably usually better. 4 mana, yeah, 2 mana spell is nice, but 4 actual mana is going to be able to come in, give you a blocker, and do the draw discard, so you're more likely to hit something big of theirs. This only gets rid of their highest cost card, so they don't replace the card you're getting rid of, which is nice. Of course, you're spending a card just to do this. Probably the most annoying thing you'll find is when Seraphine randomly generates this and then copies it so that you discard 2 cards. And that will definitely happen. So just be aware that that is a thing that can happen against Seraphine now. But otherwise, you might see it. It's going to be very meta dependent. If Elder Dragon ends up being a very strong deck, you're going to be seeing this card get played. And lastly, we're finally at the last card, the Sugary Snare. 8 mana slow for Bandle City. Place an ally on the bottom of your deck to summon the top ally of your deck. So this is what Polymorph, I think, from uh, from Magic the Gathering. So your best thing is you're getting rid of something kind of weak and hoping to get something strong. But if you can make use of predicts, perhaps you can put something guaranteed strong on top so that you know what you'll be getting with this. But outside of that, it's a little bit random, and Bandle City definitely isn't the best at just big guys for that you'd want to use Sugary Snare to find. So this is mostly going to be used to find other powerful cards from other regions. And if your deck is mostly spells, I suppose you can use this to guarantee something. It can also grab a champion, it's worth saying. So interesting. So as soon as you can do it is on turn 5 if you don't have some way to lower the cost of spells in your hand. And that is all of the cards. Uh, so it seems like the Neela adventure has nothing to do with the Elder Dragon. The Elder Dragon has everything to do with Volix, the dragon Allegiant, who is attempting to tame the Elder Dragon with Demasia's help. Doing it for good, like wanting to do it for a good reason, but it is definitely foolish. Yeah, it is definitely a foolish thing to try and do that. Probably isn't going to work out very well. Meanwhile, after the fight against Volibear, Neela has returned, passing through Demacia, most likely, getting healed by Morgana, and heading to Noxus to attempt to fight Mordekaiser, which I don't think goes very well. I don't think that they're going to fully be able to fight these things, but we don't actually see it. At the very least, they probably beat up a bunch, kill a bunch of cultists, and try to confront Mordekaiser, but I don't think they're going to be able to kill Mordekaiser or anything, especially not at the seat of his own power. So that is most likely the story of how these new cards go. There's also just a couple of other like flavory ones that give us an idea of what the world is like. Some follow-ups on previous things like Barbara. We knew about good old Barb from the Vicarian Bruiser. Yeah. Overall, what am I most interested in playing? Uh, Definitely, I like playing annoying decks, so I'm probably going to do some kind of prank curse deck. Possibly all curses, possibly prank curses. We'll see how it goes. So Morgana is probably my day one. The thrill of the Elder Dragon deck is tempting, but I think Morgana is my number one. The Mordekaiser deck is definitely interesting. How you try to do Mordekaiser, whether Shadow Isles or Noxus, is going to be a big decision. You can just do both, of course. Same thing with Morgana, but you can also take either of those and branch out to another one. So very flexible, these champions, how you're going to do them. Elder Dragon, much less flexible, I think, but it'll be interesting to see how we do what we see out of the Elder Dragon. Uh, if he ends up being very strong, it's definitely going to change how we build things in the meta. But yeah, I think most interesting thing to me is definitely doing some kind of curse thing, and combining it with pranks. So we'll see how that all works out when we get the cards next week, I believe. If you have any ideas or anything you want to see, we'll go ahead and leave it down in the comments. Thanks for watching, getting this far. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. You guys have a good one. Cannot be stopped. Look at this big boy.